Okay, so can failure be a friend? Let me start by getting you to wake up and join me. Can it be a friend? I already kind of alluded to that. What do you think? Any participation? I want us to try and feel interactive today. Because it's an area where we try and escape or keep quiet about, especially if you have a personal scrap with failure. It's not the most pleasant thing when it is happening.
Yes, Faiz, it can be a friend.
Is that Satish?
Yes, Faiz.
Oh, good, good. So you have an example where failure was your friend?
I don't know. I don't remember. But of course, when you learn from your failures and you don't repeat the same mistake, yes, it is definitely a friend.
Okay, great. Appreciate anyway your volunteering. But let me say this. Anything you want to share with us, and I endeavor to do it that way. We are human beings. We love stories. So a story is worth, not like a picture is worth 1,000 words. A story is worth 1,000 pictures. You know, I can tell you right now, say, let me tell you a story, and I know I'll get your attention. And I will be telling you some stories. Some of them I'd rather not tell, but if I have to be honest to this presentation, I have to share with you. But you know the Arabic terms, Beinu Bainak? Shake your hand if you're familiar with it. You know, this is when you talk to somebody and just let's keep this between the two of us. It's hard to say Beinu Bainak when there's 160 in the room, but let's keep it between us, huh? Especially if I'm sharing something awkward. All right. So usually when people approach me, they want partly maybe to compliment you, partly because they want to learn something. They don't come to talk to you about your failures, especially magazines when they come to interview you. So they say, let's see. Let's learn from what makes you successful. What have you done? How come, you know, this successful company and the good reputation and so on? So they start even throwing at me terms like, is it the vision? Is it the strategy that you have for the company? Is it focus? Are you a very focused kind of person? You stay on the job until it's delivered. Commitment? Diligence? You really work hard at it? Perseverance, you never give up? Or is it luck? Which one do you think? Or is it all of them? And every time I ask, I really hope somebody will say something and don't let me sit quietly until I speak. So which one do you think it is? Or is it all of them? Any volunteers?
Whereas I believe it's more of humbleness that has been making us successful. Yes, apart from all these 5 points, 6 points, I would say.
Okay. So, and that's what happened with these magazines. That's the first thing they do is they want to know how come we are what we are. And I have usually an answer for them, but I want to hear your answer.
Well, I can
Amr,
give a try.
Yeah, go ahead, Amr.
Faiz, I think more than all the points which you have said here, it is see an opportunity, take an action. If it works, we continue. If it fails, then we try something else.
Okay, that sounds logical and sensible. However, usually in the back of my mind, I don't say that to them, but that's what's in the back of my mind. There's a lot of hot air, all of this, that actually doesn't help anybody. What does diligence mean? I mean, diligence on one transaction can be meaningful, but on a successful venture, what does focus? You were focused for a minute, an hour, a day. You can't be focused for a lifetime. We've been, Alpha, I think Sridhar reminded us we passed 42 years. It can't be done. Luck is an important factor. If I had to say one thing that comes to my mind, but maybe I don't say it enough to people, is if I've been successful at anything, is creating a culture where smart people like you are willing to stick around to make Alpha a success. Is all I can really take credit for, is that I've managed to keep an environment where people are happy to stay around, smart as you are, and contribute to the success of the company. The rest is maybe all these things, but it's multitude of people making it happen. Okay, so now let's go to the failure side of the equation. And let me tell you, this is a distillation of years and years of experience that comes, and it's really important that you keep it, memorize it, and see what you can add to it, because all of it adds up. So sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So that's the first thing that you really must take on board. There is no such thing as you fail. You lose, yes. Fail is only when you give up. You don't fail, you learn. That has to be a shift, really almost a paradigm shift in your head. And don't ever be embarrassed that you have lost, that you have had a situation maybe less than optimum. You must have learned a very valuable lesson. Life is fantastic that way. The price of the failure, what you think is failure, is a huge lesson. And most of life's hard lessons can only be learned through failure. Success doesn't teach you anything. Have you noticed? You win a deal, what do? You start to pitch it in a way, oh, we did this and we did that, etc. But actually you're celebrating, you're happy with yourself. There is really not a big lesson. But failure, my goodness, is a lot of soul searching, and you know exactly where you failed. So let's see a few examples of failures that teaches us. So learning responsibility from negligence. Every time you fail to be diligent, watchful, aware, and you be negligent, you fail. And that failure could be catastrophic. And hopefully every time it happens, you learn from it. Has anybody had this experience? Well, if you haven't, you've been also the victim of it. Somebody either driving in front of you or behind you or side of you, they're on the phone and really they're a risk to you, to themselves, etc. The negligence or failure, and if you suddenly looked in front of you and saw a child or saw a family, my goodness, it shake up your whole being. And that's a lesson that negligence teaches us. Much more than if I said to you, how come you're a successful driver? It doesn't teach you anything. You know, I'm a clever driver, okay, I'm better than average driver. These don't mean anything. What about this one? Fail to achieve your numbers, your budget. You have a lot of salespeople on the call. What happens? You think you learn from it if you're smart, and if you don't learn, life will teach you. You will be most unhappy no matter what you say, and you know every review you're going to be feeling shrunk inside, and you will begin to doubt yourself. You even feel your self-respect diminishing. So that makes you really learn exactly how come I couldn't do it. And you learn your lesson and you vow to do better next time. Patience is only needed when you really failed with your tolerance of a situation. So because you failed to be tolerant, you learn patience. That's another lesson that you learn from failure. Have you, most of you, I expect, has children. Have you had that situation? You come and they have drawn all over the wall. They're everywhere and they're happy with themselves and they're smiling, etc. And you feel like, pulling your clothes off or pulling your hair out or whatever, because that is not easily repaired. They have to repaint the whole room. But again, that's what it teaches you. Patience, because you begin to see that you have to see it with their eyes. They see a blank board, and they have color markers, and they can enjoy themselves, and they also have to learn. If you don't see that, then there is no chance for you or for them if you're going to lose it. The other thing that happens is a child expects everybody to be patient with them, to listen to them, to give them, to carry them, to teach them. And that's fine. And at one day, when they grow up, the roles reverse. The child become a parent. My goodness, suddenly they think, oh, when I was a child, everybody had to listen to me. Now I've got to do the exact thing. And that is a huge responsibility, but it teaches you patience. And patience is extremely valuable. I have learned through many, many situations, when I lose patience, whatever I'm doing, it takes twice as long. Just record, and the next time you're in a hurry, impatient, everything seems to take twice as long. You rush at it, get it wrong, and then it takes you longer. When you fail to understand something, and you think you can wing it, you think you can just somehow it will work, okay? Most of you are either in a leadership position, and it doesn't matter what position you hold, everybody, every human being is leading somebody. And if you don't get it, what's been happening, the worst thing you can do is to rely on others to define the problems for you or solve them. Why is that a problem? How come I just hire some smart people? They define the problem, they provide me with solutions. What do you think? Why can't you do that? Why shouldn't you do that? Come on, contribution. There's a pause here. And I know all of you approach a situation and think, I know what needs to be done here. I might need help. I need another extra pair of hands. But by goodness, if you approach a situation, you don't know what the issue is, you're just hiring consultants, you're in trouble. And that often happens with large organizations where they bring in consultants who in turn bring in smart young men and women who fill in big folders and hand it over to you, and it means nothing to you, your management, or the board. So why shouldn't you rely on others?
Sometimes we know the problem best.
Okay, yeah, if you're the one suffering, you're the one feeling it, very true, and it is paining you, hurting you, losing you money. When you know it exactly, then you start to ask the right questions. And you ask the right questions, and if you understand your problems, then you're able to judge. Because if you just bring outsiders to tell you, how would you know they're giving you the right answer? They have no chance. So if you fail to understand, you will see the whole process is much more prolonged. If you can't rely on you with others, what I'm showing in the picture here is a hotel manager. Hotel manager, to be successful, usually the most successful hotel managers, especially in the 5-star hotels, have started low down in the ladder, usually in the kitchen, maybe peeling potatoes. Those people have been through all the steps, and then they become front desk managers, and they move on until they become the hotel manager. Someone like that can do any of the job. They can rely on themselves to deliver on whatever. Frankly, I can tell you that's something when we started in the 80s, if I couldn't go and install a PC, configure it, and make sure the customer is happy, and then I could hire engineers, etc., I didn't feel confident enough that we can run a company. You need to be able to do A to Z. Obviously, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I lost that ability, got very sophisticated, and as you got into networks and securities and multi-layers, this and that, I call the smarter guys in the company to help there. But because I entered at the bottom end, I know what's involved. You know, when I worked in Kuwait in the early days, I started off with assembly language, which till this day is still used to, basic programming of the machine. So all the layers that build on that makes life easy if you know the basics. If you come in as just as a clever manager, then a lot of the discussion just go over your head. So people need to feel they can rely on you, and they can only feel that if they decide, yes, he knows what he's talking about, he's been through it all, or she's been through it all, and she can deal with it. Every time you're pushed past the point of failure, beyond your limit, you learn something. I'm going to. So you'll know your full potential. If you've not been pushed to the point of failure, you don't. Anybody can give me an example where by being pushed beyond your point of failure, you actually learn that, okay, that's as far as I can go today, but my full potential could be beyond that. But at least now I know how far I could go today. Has anybody been or feel they're being pushed beyond their limit in any situation? Could be mental, physical, relational.
Good morning, Fayez.
Good morning.
This is Konstantinos.
Yes.
So I have something to add on this. When you are within your potential, you always are in a comfort zone. When you are pushed beyond that, you are discovering areas outside your comfort zone, and then you unveil abilities that you might never thought that you had.
Yeah. So as always, I always say, when I'm asking it, I would rather have a story than elaboration. So I'll give one story, and then maybe you can give me your story. Has anybody tried to hold your breath underwater? And you think, maybe I can do 3 minutes. I don't know. Anybody who's tried for a lengthy period of time underwater?
Not more than 3 minutes. I don't know how to swim, but I'd like to dive in.
Okay, so you dive in, you held it for 3 minutes. Anybody improved on that? Anybody beyond 3 minutes?
I can hold my breath for 2 minutes without air inside the lungs.
Oh, okay, that's twice as hard when you're exhausted, all the air on. When you start, you have nothing. So remember, nobody do their best on the first try. You're not going to be pushing yourself first try. Some of you are really good at keep pushing past failure to know the full potential. And that, you don't have to make a habit of it. We're not going to be sadistics here, but you should, in some areas, try for that. Even when you are forecasting a budget, you push beyond fail. Let it fail now. If failure means a huge punishment, you might be reluctant. But if there is no big price to be paid, it's good to stretch. Otherwise, life becomes boring. You know, I know some of you, unfortunately, have got the next year budget, I'm talking 22, they had 23 already in the bag. And they're projecting a budget that is already guaranteed. That to me is not pushing beyond the point of failure. Okay, and you'd have to reconsider that, is that how I want to live my life? All very cozy, comfortable. Now, if you are working with a manager that shoots you every time you don't hit the target, I can understand. But if that's not the style of the company, do push beyond the point of failure. Okay. Now, hiring, I say, is a double gamble, because hiring frequently results in failure. So why do I call it a double gamble? So first you apply, and you get interviewed, and then you get hired, hopefully. Then, if things don't work out, so you're shown the door. you're fired or you resign, whatever, things don't work out. So where is the double gamble here? So the double gamble is when you're hiring, you're gambling on that employee, that staff member becoming what you hope they would become, deliver what you hope they will deliver. But they're looking at you, at the organization, at its history, and so on, and they are gambling on you. That I am moving to your organization, maybe resigning from another job, maybe taking a risk. It's a double gamble. Don't always think just we're hiring you. What if he doesn't deliver, she doesn't deliver? They're also hiring you and they're betting their future on you. So when failure happens, is a huge teaching moment that we both took a risk. And actually, the risk is much higher for the employee because they may have moved city, maybe they have put their children in school, they may be whatever. And if you decide, okay, you're not a good fit or you don't deliver, the gamble is really much more painful for them. Failure in that department. So every time you take on somebody, please remember they are betting and risking a lot more than you are. So we learn from failure. Let me tell you now my secret stories. Anybody interested in a secret Beno Benak story? Don't tell anybody that I wanted to go around town that this Fayez has been fumbling and failing and he comes here to manage us. God help us. Okay, so one of my early projects was a big disaster. This was, as you might understand, a saloon for making cloths. So in my ignorance, I managed to find bargain looms. They're still good Swiss looms, and not many looms at that time. I am talking in the 80s or late 70s, and not many Chinese looms on the market, so you had to buy the Swiss looms. But it was a second-hand loom. And the cotton, again, the best deal was out of Pakistan. So I got second-hand loom and threads from Pakistan. The only thing about this business is that it has to run 24/7. If it doesn't, you cannot make money. Now imagine you have threads that have break in them, they have knots in them, they're not high qualities, and the loom that needs attention all the time. So ended up every maybe hour you have to stop the line, fix things, all the snagged thread, whatever. So there was a lesson there. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. If you go for too much of a bargain, it is too much of a bargain. You pay a heavy price for that. And you realize, I was no loom engineer. It wasn't my business. You're also venturing beyond your know-how is not a good idea. Parallel with that, I also went into farming. This is 2 projects in Jordan. Now, I don't know if anybody here done farming. Out of 166 people, you're very lucky if you haven't done farming. Farming is one of the hardest subjects. It seems easy, but actually you have very little control on water, on market pricing, the produce that comes out. It depends if there is an infection. So you start it and it's a very slow process. We are all in technology, so we're used to fast and furious, and to sit and watch plant grow, it's like watching paint dry. It's very slow process. So again, it taught me a lot about myself, that farming needs a certain nature. And really, unless you are in a very big industrial farming, it's not a quick get-rich scheme. And most farmers in Jordan, it is riches to famine, famine to riches. Every year, you never know, they're going to lose their shirt or make a bit of money. and some years wipe out years of profit. Then I got into consulting. And you begin in there, I hope I can convince you by the end of it that you're not looking at the most successful entrepreneur here. So consulting, while I was in Jordan, I had a partner who was very good technically, and we worked together in a company. And then I had the project to come to the UAE. While I was in Jordan, we had a few jobs. We did this, that, the other, and it was limping. It wasn't great, but it was fine. Next time after, I don't know, I came to the UAE, spent 6 months, maybe 8 months. I went back to Jordan, to the office that we set up, and found my partner sitting on a chair in an empty office. I said, what happened? Where is the furniture? He says, what do you expect? We had no customers. I had to sell the furniture to feed my family. I said, what? What do you think you're doing? Why didn't you go out and get the customers, get business? You're very capable technically. Then you realize, don't look through your own perspective at others. He was a very technical person, but he wasn't in sales. He had no way of converting relationship into a sales transaction. And I made the mistake assuming selling is straightforward. You just develop a rapport and close a deal and people would just come to you. So again, we have to shut down that consultancy. And last but not least, this is maybe a center might still have memory of it, maybe not. We partnered with Pentasoft. This is a fairly large company. I don't know if it still exists. That was a software developer in India, huge software developer. And we developed a web accounting application. But it failed miserably. Senthil, why did it fail? Do you remember, or were you around?
Yeah, Chief. I'm here. It failed for multiple reasons, actually. We started developing a product without knowing what is product development is. So we miserably failed. But I'll tell you something. The aim of what we are selling today is the same product in a different flavor.
Okay. So we took some basics from that and turned it around. But let me tell you the real reason. See, that's the beauty of failure. You can really analyze it and come up with lessons. First of all, partnering is mostly a disaster because it dilutes responsibility. You think because they're a big international, they know what they're doing. They think you're strong locally, you know what you're doing, and everybody relies on the others and you end up with a mediocre result. 2, developing a product where you end up competing with Microsoft is not very wise. You know, Microsoft had a very mature or good web application, and customers would rather go to Microsoft than come to you. And I could list 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't want to take our time in that, but can you begin to see how failure has a very specific reason? And if you want to learn, don't go ask successful person, how did you succeed? Ask them, please share with me some of the failure, because that's where the lessons is, and they can tell you exactly how that happened. And then you can walk away and say, I'll do this, I mustn't do that. And that's how you would end up learning and make failure your friend, not a stigma that you would rather keep it binu. Okay? So that's it. Always going to be your better teacher. Go to it and don't be afraid. Thank you very much. And I hope you sort of comment and rate what we have discussed. Thank you. Have a good day.